The Allen Lund Company continues to support the owner-operators of OOIDA. Thank you for what you do, and stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
The president said his administration would cut back on unnecessary regulations. Now, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is taking action toward making that a reality. I'll discuss that and more with OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. The American Truck Historical Society's National Convention and Antique Truck Show kicks off next week. Ashley Blackford talks with Peter Wild of ATHS about what you can expect at this historic show. And finally, several states are working on legislation that would affect the move toward autonomous trucks. Scott Thompson covers that and more with our state legislative expert, Keith Goebel. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today, President Trump's tariff plans hit a big snag on Wednesday when a three-judge panel of the U.S. Court of International Trade blocked them. The court ruled that the president overstepped his authority when he invoked the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act to declare a national emergency and justify the tariffs. Some of the tariffs were allowed to remain in place, including those on foreign steel, aluminum, and autos, but the majority of the others were blocked. The Trump administration will appeal the decision. Most experts believe the case will eventually reach the Supreme Court. Freight coming in and out of Mexico and Canada stabilized in March. According to the latest numbers from the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, truck freight valued at more than $94 billion was hauled across the borders in March. That's a 9.5% increase compared with a year earlier and a gain of 9% from the previous month. That follows traditional trends for the month of March, although the increase was relatively modest compared to the last 10 years of data. Cross-border freight hauled by trucks across the U.S. northern border increased by 3% compared with March of 2024. At the southern border, trucking freight shot up by 14.5%. With a 2-month reporting delay, the most recent cross-border freight numbers do not reflect President Trump's tariff push. Avery Vise, Vice President of Trucking for Freight Transportation Research Associates, said the March numbers are likely the result of companies front-loading imports ahead of tariffs. However, he warned of more volatility in the coming months as businesses respond to shifts in U.S. trade policy. Diesel prices back on the decline. The most recent data from the Energy Information Administration shows prices dipping by just under 5 cents to an average of $3.48 a gallon. Decreases were recorded in every region on the EIA survey, save for the Central Atlantic, where prices were up slightly. ProMiles.com data tells a similar story. They had a Thursday morning average at $3.49 a gallon, down nearly 2 cents compared with the same day the previous week. The U.S. Department of Transportation has announced more than $1.5 billion in federal funding to help repair roads and bridges damaged by natural disasters. The bulk of that money will go to areas affected by Hurricane Helene, more than $683 million to be more precise, which will be going to communities in the Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. The remainder of the funds will be dispersed across 36 states and U.S. territories recently affected by natural disasters. New details tonight about New York City's congestion tolling program. Earlier in the week, we told you about a court decision that temporarily prevents the Trump administration from withholding federal funds for state transportation projects, a move that came in response to New York's unwillingness to end its congestion pricing program in Manhattan. One day later, a federal court granted New York's motion for a preliminary injunction, effectively extending the conditions of the temporary restraining order until a final ruling on the case is reached. That's not expected until the fall, meaning the congestion tolling program will likely remain in place until at least then. Under the current congestion pricing plan, truckers driving a multi-unit truck with an Easy Pass are charged more than $21 during the peak period each time they enter the congestion pricing zone with no daily cap. Philadelphia police have another cargo theft incident to investigate, and once again, the targeted item was meat. Beef in this case, $150,000 worth of it. Philly police say the beef was stolen out of the back of a parked tractor trailer on Memorial Day. 2 team drivers were asleep inside the cab at the time. They told police that they didn't wake up because the sound of the reefer trailer and idling engine drowned out whatever noises the thieves may have made. There's a new wrinkle to the tolling scams that have spread to multiple states in recent months. The scammers have been using text messages to hook potential victims. Now they're apparently turning to phone calls as well. The Utah DOT says people are now getting live phone calls from people claiming to be from the state agency. Officials say the spam attacks have ramped up in intensity and volume, with scammers even verbally berating callers who aren't willing to give up their personal info. The Utah DOT says they've gotten hundreds of inquiries asking about the validity of the phone calls and text messages. A reminder that state DOTs and turnpike authorities do not send text messages or make phone calls about tolling fees. If you get a text asking for payment, do not click the link, but do block the sender. If you get a phone call, hang up and block the caller. The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association has expressed formal support for a move that would protect small business truckers from disclosing additional personal information. In comments posted to the regulations.gov website, OOIDA said it supports the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network's interim final rule that removes existing beneficial ownership information reporting requirements for domestic companies. The association said the requirements would force small business truckers to unnecessarily disclose personal and business information to yet another federal agency. OOIDA noted that owner-operators and independent truckers already have to submit a good amount of information when registering with the U.S. DOT and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. OOIDA urged FinCEN to make the current exemption for domestic entities permanent in any forthcoming final rulemaking. Tesla has circled June 12th on the calendar for the launch of its robotaxi service. That's according to Bloomberg, which cites a person familiar with the decision-making process at the company. That source said the company has begun operating a test vehicle on roadways in Austin, Texas, without a human in the driver's seat for the first time. If everything goes smoothly there, the robotaxis will roll out to the public on June 12th. Elon Musk has previously said that the rollout will first include about 10 self-driving Teslas and then expand to about 1,000 vehicles within a few months. Meanwhile, the idea of dedicating part of Interstate 94 in Michigan for self-driving vehicles is being met with resistance. The Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners recently voted to oppose the project. The Michigan DOT is working in step with a private company to develop the so-called I-94 Connected and Automated Vehicle Corridor. The idea is to dedicate one lane of travel going in each direction on I-94 between Ann Arbor and Detroit for smart vehicles. Those lanes would feature technology that can interact with the cars. Washtenaw County's concerns about the project range from potential environmental impacts to equitable access. And finally, if some lawmakers in Louisiana get their way, trailer registration fees will be going up soon. A bill in the Louisiana House recently passed out of committee. It would increase the registration fee for trailers by 50% to $15 and the fee for light trailers from $3 up to $4.50. Sponsors say the increases would help pay for the maintenance of rural roads in response to inflation. And that's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. For decades, the federal government has followed a rule when it comes to setting speed limits, and that is that traffic is safest when all vehicles are going the same or close to the same speed. So if that's true, what happens when you restrict a huge part of that traffic to a significantly slower speed? Big hint, it's not good. That's a big reason why OOIDA opposes mandating speed limiters. Now Congress is perking up and paying attention. The DRIVE Act, H.R. 2819 in the House and S. 1696 in the Senate, would forbid any speed limiter mandate by FMCSA. Call your member of the U.S. House today to support the bill at 202-224-3121 or write a letter using the website fightingfortruckers.com. Again, that's the DRIVE Act, H.R. 2819 in the House and S. 1696 in the Senate. You can call your member of the House or Senate at 202-224-3121, and you can write a letter about the bill using the website fightingfortruckers.com. Next, I'll discuss a big move by FMCSA toward cutting a slew of regulations with OOIDA's Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. Please stay with us. I'm Mark Rettig, and this is Landline Now.
At Truck Stop, we've built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone's FD694 drive tire for long haul and regional applications now delivers 126,000 more removal miles than the Yokohama TY517 MC2. Contact your Firestone commercial dealer to learn more.
The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is taking aim at regulations aimed at making life easier for truck drivers, and OOIDA is giving that list a once-over to make sure it does just that. Welcome back to Landline Now. This is Regulatory Roundup, and I'm Mark Rettig. I'm joined as always by OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. Jay, how are you doing?
Doing well, Mark. Good to be with you.
Well, good to have you here. I want to kind of start broadly here. This involves some changes by FMCSA to some of the existing rules that truckers have to follow. So what kind of changes are we talking about, and how many rules does this cover?
Yeah, so FMCSA put out a list of about 20 different regulatory provisions that they are either changing immediately, and about 18 others that they are going to propose to amend or eliminate or streamline that generally seem to kind of update either obsolete regulations or make some common sense changes to individual provisions. And it really runs the gamut. Kind of the main one that we were focusing on was the rear impact guard certification label requirements. That's one we've been really wanting to eliminate for a long time. Glad to see that one. But then we've got stuff from electronic logging device operators manuals, auxiliary fuel tanks, brakes on portable conveyors, spare fuses, vision standard grandfathering provisions, just a whole host of really specific vehicle and equipment changes, and some broader regulatory and kind of form changes. I think that all kind of looking through them generally makes sense. I think get rid of some outdated equipment things that have been on the books since 1993, in some cases don't really align with modern trucking. And then some other stuff like that ELD operator's manual, just removing the requirement to have the paper ELD manual in the vehicle when a lot of this stuff is electronically accessible nowadays. But certainly really happy to see this requirement removing that rear label certification, because that's when we see drivers and carriers really get on the hook for violations. And it really, it only applies from the manufacturing perspective to make sure that standard is met. But once that rear impact guard is on the road, that label can get wear and tear, can fall off the truck, and it really serves no safety purpose after manufacturing.
Yeah, it's always struck me as kind of odd that basically, I think Mark Schremer on yesterday's show compared it to the label on your mattress you're not supposed to tear off. Your mattress is still good if the label's not there. And I think that's kind of like this. And what's worse is I recall that thing faced forward on the rear impact guard. So all the various road debris coming up was just wearing them off.
Exactly. And that's, I think, a great comparison here. And we've been working for quite a number of years with CVSA, with the American Trucking Association, really to either amend this requirement or remove it altogether. Last December, I think FMCSA put out some updated guidance that addressed a lot of our concerns. But now to have this proposal to completely remove this regulation is going to take away all doubt, get it on the books. So of these proposals and these 18 different issues, there's going to be a 60-day comment period that's going to be open to the public to provide some feedback and input on. I think that'll pretty much go through the end of July. And then I think we'll see FMCSA take a little bit of time to review those public comments. But I anticipate that most of these proposals are going to be finalized, hopefully by the end of the year, and really will clean up I think a lot of some confusion on some of these issues, but really clarifying some of the outdated regulations that have been on the books. And hopefully, I think it's a sign of more to come, as FMCSA is now in the process of reviewing, I think, hundreds of comments that were submitted to that comprehensive request for information on regulations that could be modified, repealed, or eliminated. And that comment period closed earlier in this month, and I anticipate that FMCSA and other agencies across DOT are going to have another a round of perhaps proposed modifications to what we view as certainly a number of regulations that need to be updated and eliminated, stuff that doesn't make sense, stuff that has no connection to safety, really to make sure that drivers aren't being dinged for that when it comes to violations at roadside.
Yeah, and I think that is the common theme that really hits home for me is when you say things that are not related to actual safety. You're not more likely to have an accident if you don't happen to have the manual for your ELD with you, or if there's not a label, on the ICC bumper at the back of your truck. The bumper's perfectly functional, but there's no label. That doesn't make you more likely to have an accident. And I think that's something that a lot of truckers regard as very, very overdue.
And that was a welcome theme throughout these proposals. FMCSA kind of breaks it down to say exactly, what they're amending or eliminating. And then in quite a number of these, they say, the proposed change would provide relief from a regulatory requirement without impacting safety. And certainly that's a common theme we hear from drivers on the road, that's what they want to see from DOT and FMCSA is more common sense, cost-effective reform where the regulations that they have to comply with actually do have a proven safety benefit, and they're not getting written up for equipment violations that really are just costing them time and money and aren't really impacting their safety performance.
Well, let's move on to another issue that's just come up this week, and that's a federal action regarding the beneficial ownership information issue. And before we dig into this particular thing, I still think some people are confused. Can you describe what beneficial ownership information is and what the requirement was regarding that?
Yeah, so beneficial ownership information is really, once again, having companies, small businesses, if you own your own business, that you've got to submit some personally identifiable and business-related information to another federal agency. And this was going to be under the Department of Treasury. And these requirements really came from a piece of legislation that was enacted back in 2021 called the Corporate Transparency Act. And the intent of that legislation was really to kind of crack down on financial crimes. But some of the aspects of that bill, I think, were a little short-sighted in imposing a lot of these filing requirements, regulatory burdens on small businesses with less than 20 employees who are doing things the right way. And, from the trucking side of things, they are already submitting this information to DOT, to FMCSA, to the IRS when they're filing their taxes every year. And to have these duplicative requirements is, again, just a waste of time and money. The estimated compliance costs for businesses across the country was going to be up in the billions. And for about the last year and a half, a lot of these reporting requirements were set to go into place back in 2024. But the lead-in time got very confusing. There was a whole host of different court decisions. Kind of one week they were delaying the filing requirements, and they were back on again. And it really just created a cloud of confusion about, who had to submit the information, when they had to meet the deadlines, and how they had to submit the information. And fortunately, back in March, the Secretary of the Treasury and the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network issued an interim final rule that really clarified a lot of the confusion. And the interim final rule exempted any domestic company from having to submit the beneficial ownership information. So that interim final rule is now in place, and the comment period on that interim final rule just wrapped up this week. And we certainly wanted to make it known that the interim final rule should be made permanent, and that would be especially helpful for small business truckers who, the intent of that original Corporate Transparency Act is never really going to apply to America's small businesses. And even, I think, in our comments, we noted that and agreed with the Secretary of Treasury's assessment that domestic reporting companies providing this information would not serve the public interest and would not be highly useful in national security, intelligence, and law enforcement agency efforts to detect, prevent, or prosecute money laundering, financing of terrorism, tax fraud, or other crimes. And we kind of said that it would not detect significant criminal activity, but maintaining these requirements would only add another disruptive layer of regulatory red tape, along with excessive compliance costs for America's small businesses. So we applauded the agency for issuing the interim final rule, but really hope that these provisions are made permanent, and we expect a formal final rule to be forthcoming later this year, and really want to see these exemptions for domestic entities maintained.
We have a little bit of time left, Jan. I did want to get to this last topic here that you had brought up, the Advanced Clean Trucks Rule, which is one of many emission regulations in recent years that was put forth by the California Air Resources Board, is now officially terminated after action by Congress. And I will admit that I even get confused about all these different CARB rules. What was or is the Advanced Clean Fleets Rule?
Yeah, the Advanced Clean Trucks Rule, which was the waiver that was approved under the previous administration's EPA, really allowing California to set these phased-in manufacturing requirements for zero-emission vehicles over the next 10 years, and by 2036 would completely eliminate the sale of internal combustion engines within California. Fortunately, new administration has kind of taken the opportunity to say those waivers were approved without Congress giving the okay. And now we've seen this year the House and just last week the Senate have voted to overturn those waivers and really put those rules that have been in place for a couple years on hold. The Senate had to face kind of some procedural challenges to get around some rulings by the parliamentarian, but they were able to manage that. But I think we're expecting to see some challenges from California to these recent measures. I think California Governor Gavin Newsom has already said the Senate vote is illegal, and that the California Attorney General has also announced the state will be filing a lawsuit against the resolution. We don't think these rules make sense, kind of rushing zero-emission vehicles production without the necessary infrastructure in place. We've seen other states who, I think first wanted to adopt these California laws, kind of push back and delay some of that implementation. So we don't think it's a practical rule to begin with, and have supported the congressional efforts to overturn the Advanced Clean Trucks Rule, the California's NOx rule as well, and going to see if they hold up in court. But for now, I think we're awaiting the president's signature on the recent congressional action. Okay. Well, Jay, we've run out of time, but thank you very much for all the information. Okay, Mark, we'll see you next time. That was Jay Grimes of OOIDA. Landline Now will be back in a moment.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a CAT scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget miss accuracy, weigh your truck on a CAT scale.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
Landline Now, welcome back. Next week marks the annual American Truck Historical Society's National Convention and Truck Show. Peter Wild is the convention chairman. He joins me now. Peter, can you start off by talking to me about this event and what people can expect?
The convention is like a car show on steroids, but for old trucks. We already have 521 trucks registered and 97 trailers. So we're already over 600 units, and we have everything going back to the 19 teens all the way up to trucks 10 years old. Anything and everything. Fire trucks, school buses, dump trucks, semis. If it has wheels and it helps somebody make a living, there's a good chance it will be at the show. Besides the trucks being there themselves, we put on a lot of other events during the week. For example, we are doing a kickoff party on June 4th. We are also doing an ice cream social. We have the awards banquet. And then we also do tours. We do one this year. It's called Rivers and Rails. It is actually sold out. But then we have another tour called Cheese and Vines, and tickets are still available for that. We also put on learning sessions throughout the week. One day we're going to have a member talking about Oshkosh and four-wheel drive trucking history, which I think is going to be a really unique one since Oshkosh is actually from the Wisconsin area. We do some other historical ones. We're going to be talking about international trucks from 1907 to 2005. OldInternationalParts.com got Tom Clark to do that. Besides the history side of it, we also do hands-on mechanical information. We're going to have a daily winch truck demo. We're going to actually explain how to put gin poles up, actually run the cables, show you what oil field trucks actually do. We're going to have a session on air brakes. We're going to do one on transmission and frame modifications. And then we also are doing some other ones that are including interior upholstery and design. So if you have an old truck or car and kind of want to modify your interior, that might be a good one to come and hear from the experts how they do it.
Who would you say this event would be for?
This event is for anybody that likes automotive history, anything like that. Besides the truck show itself, we also have a vendor area with a lot of stuff for everybody. We have a kids area. We are doing a scavenger hunt this year, kind of like in a bingo format for the kids to walk around and try to find little details of trucks. For example, one of them is going to be to find a dog on the front of a truck. So any kid that can find a Mack truck, they're going to be able to get that and go from there. For the ladies, we have a thing we call Coffee for the Better Half. It's kind of a area off on its own for all the ladies that want to sit around, have coffee. We are also going to be having puzzles, and we're going to do some fun little arts and crafts, 5 little minute deals that you want to sit down and sit in the AC, relax, and socialize with other people. That's a good place to do it. It's a good event for the whole family.
Nice. Now, this year it's in Madison, Wisconsin. Is it somewhere different every year?
Yes, we rotate around every year. We go from East Coast, Central, to the West Coast, and then we always have a rotating year. So this year it's in Madison, Wisconsin. Last year it was in York, Pennsylvania. Next year it will be in Cleveland, Ohio.
Nice. As far as registration goes, where can people go for that?
Registration, we have already closed our early bird registration, but we will start registering people on Tuesday at the gates there at the Alliance Center. It is $20 for non-members, $15 for ATHS members. Kids 12 and under are free. One payment equals all-day access. We are open 8 to 5 p.m. daily. And with that administration, it gives you everything we've talked about, the truck show, vendors, learning sessions, And it even gives you in on Thursday night for our light show that we're going to be having.
Nice. One thing you mentioned, it really is kind of for the whole family. One thing I've noticed at different truck shows and whatnot, when it comes especially, to old cars, old trucks, it seems like no matter who you are, whether you're a car person or truck person, everyone's always interested in seeing the old school automobiles and trucks and whatnot. Have you noticed that over the years?
Oh, for sure. The ATHS show I always get a kick out of because you go to some of the bigger car shows back home and everything is a mint restored, beautiful cars and trucks. And I'm too scared to lean close and look at them. We have members bringing in trucks that they just pulled out of a hedgerow that's been sitting for 40 years. And it's the rustier, not fixed up trucks with a story that always get my attention. And we don't do any awards. You don't have to have the nicest truck. You don't have to have the roughest truck. We like them all, and every truck has a story. And on the semi side, I love it because we have a lot of members that have that semi for, 30, 40 years. They put on 2 million miles in that truck, and it put their kids through college, and it's the stories behind them that's always unique.
Do you notice that every year this is kind of like a reunion for some people?
Absolutely. It's one of the mottos we have in ATHS is come for the trucks, stay for the family. And for me, that is exactly what it is. I've been involved for several years. Ever since I was a kid, my dad took me to my first show when I was 6. And now I make more plans to see friends and family that are going to be at the show. And we got members that I only see once a year, but I know they're going to be at the show. And we have people coming from all over the world. We'll have, of course, the United States represented, but we'll have members coming in from Canada, Mexico. We even have members that fly in from Germany, Australia, and you only get to see them once a year, and it's a big family reunion.
Wow. Now, you did touch on this a little bit. There are learning sessions during the event. Can you talk to me a little bit more about those?
Yes, the learning sessions, we're going to dig into them, and there's a little bit on everything that we try to cover. We try to do a hands-on one, which we're doing the winch truck, and we're actually going to have a few trucks out there. One of our members is going to run them. I think he said they were going to bring some carts or something and show you how to actually lift up stuff. And that's a good one. If you ever seen, a big gin pole truck and I've never been around them. I'm always curious, how do you actually set up the poles? And so that's one we're going to do daily, and that is hands-on. Brian will be able to answer questions. Eric Rizel is doing 2 of the sessions. One of them he's talking about is called Keep the Wheels Turning. He is very involved with Alcoa wheels, and he's going to explain how they've been remodifying new wheels to give them that old school look. He's also going to be doing one on the frame modifications, because a lot of people that get a truck, they either want to stretch it to put a bigger sleeper on, or it's been wrecked, or they want to put an airbag suspension. He's going to be touching on a lot of that stuff. Tim Wright's going to be talking about Oshkosh, which is a local Wisconsin manufacturer, and about four-wheel drives and how Oshkosh helped pretty much event four-wheel drive. One of our members, Tony Martin, he's going to be doing some hand-on ones with air brake systems and Road Ranger transmissions. Last year, he did one on air brakes up in York, Pennsylvania, and he actually brought in wedge brake drums and everything and explained how they physically work, so you could see better instead of just looking at pictures. We are also going to do the history of international trucks. Tom Clark is doing that one. And one thing great about that is there in Madison, just a few blocks down the road, the Wisconsin Historical Society actually has all the historical records for international trucks. So for people who are very interested in internationals, they can come listen to Tom give his sessions. And then if you want to go do some digging in a library, It's right down the road. Rocco's going to be doing one on horsepower and torque, which will be an interesting one for people who aren't 100% mechanically inclined, that we get those terminology mixed up sometimes, and Rocco's going to go over on how to do both of those. And then our last one, Charlene's going to do, is on interior upholstery and design, on how to lay out, seats, door panels, headliners, how to do like layouts, pick designs, how to get started. For the people who are wanting to learn the basic to learn how to do upholstery, that will be a really good session.
Great. What do you look forward to most when it comes to this event?
I look forward to the trucks that are local to the area. That is one of my favorite things with the shows rotating all over. Last year, we were there in York, Pennsylvania, right down the road from Allentown, which is home of Mack trucks. So last year, we got to see a lot of Macks from the early 20s and 30s that aren't around anymore. This year, being in Wisconsin, I'm expecting to see a lot of livestock trailers. Oshkosh, Diamond T's, and Sterlings were all built in Wisconsin, so there'll be some unique ones there. And every year when we rotate it, the trucks from the area are what make it. Like when we were in Salem, Oregon back in 2016, I'm from Kansas. We don't really have any trees. And it was amazing to me to see all the trucks that were restored for the logging companies that actually came in with freshly cut trees on there. And I've never seen trees that big in my life. And it was just amazing how they put them on the trucks and how they actually tied them down and how they modified hauling trees over the years.
Neat, yeah. All right. Is there anything else you want to add that I may have missed?
Like I said, it's a great family fun event for all the family. Grandpas and the little kids will have a great time. You're going to see trucks that you might never see again. It's amazing how many of these trucks come out once every 10 years and then seem to just disappear. And it's amazing to see them. You're going to be able to hear great stories, make friends, and make memories.
Wonderful.
And I also want to give a shout out to all of our sponsors. Without them, we would not be able to put on a great show like this. Some of our sponsors are Cummins, Dahmer Trucks North America, Vanderhaeg's, I-80, Truck Mat, Cat Scales, Mack Trucks, Haggerty Insurance, the Circum Family, Result Machine Works, Wheels Now, and the Alliance Energy Center. So if you have an old truck, if you're interested at all, if you're going to be in the area, we're going to be there for 4 days. It will not be coming back to Wisconsin for another 4 years. So it is a great event that a lot of people look forward to every year, and I welcome you to come down and make some friends, see some trucks, and have a great time.
That was Peter Wild talking about the annual American Truck Historical Society's National Convention and Truck Show. That's happening June 5th through the 7th at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison, Wisconsin. For more information and to register, you can visit aths.org and click the Events tab. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Protect your diesel engine with Howe's Diesel Defender. Restore vital lubricity, eliminate injector deposits, and boost fuel economy by 5% or more. Power, performance, protection, all in one. Howe's Diesel Defender, available now.
With rising costs affecting everyone, switching to a genuine Vibertech TVD viscous damper can help you avoid expensive repairs and downtime. Save money and keep your truck running smooth with Vibertech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Welcome back to the home stretch of Landline Now today. We've been talking a lot of late about Aurora's autonomous truck ambitions in the state of Texas and beyond. And with the issue front and center, a number of other states are also taking a look at the driverless truck issue and coming up with legislation in response. Joining us to discuss which states are doing what is Keith Goebel, state legislative guru at Landline Magazine. Keith, good to see you.
Scott, there's a lot going on in the topic of autonomous trucks, which we haven't actually talked about here
for a little while,
for a couple months.
Yeah.
So there are some updates to provide.
Well, let's do it. Let's get right to it. We've got a handful of states basically taking a look at this issue here. Texas and Arizona come to mind when I think of states that have been a little bit lax on the regulations in terms of letting these companies kind of do what they want. But now we've got some other states on the other side of that coin that are pushing for bans, and I suppose we can start with Colorado on that one.
Yeah, actually, it's a little-known fact, as Cliff Clavin and Cheers would say. Hey, more than half of all the states have rules already in place on autonomous trucks. Now, as you would expect, as the years go by, or maybe I should say as the weeks go by, rules become outdated. So you've got legislatures across the country, seemingly on an annual basis. They're looking to update those rules on technology as they continue to evolve. One focus that we've seen really pick up this year, I mean, we've seen some states address it a bit here in recent years, is concern about autonomous trucks, having whether someone is going to be in the vehicle who has a CDL and can take charge if need be. So we've seen really that start to pick up this year. Colorado among the states that have been considering legislation on that very addressing that very concern, and the Colorado bill's gone to the governor. And in the race to see who will be the first state in the nation to prohibit the operation of autonomous trucks without somebody actually in the seat, hopefully we will see somebody finish that race. And Colorado, at this point, they appear to be in the lead. We will see if this comes to fruition. But yeah, just basically putting that rule in place. The only exception to a ban on autonomous trucks on state roadways would be is if there is a CDL holder in the vehicle.
Yeah, and again, the governor there, do we have any sense as to which way he might be leaning? Has he said anything in the past that we know about, or we're just kind of waiting?
Yeah, I don't think that there's really been much that's been, that's been given away, I guess you could say. I think back to California the past couple of years.
Yeah.
They've had their legislature, it was bipartisan support for banning autonomous trucks without somebody in the vehicle, and the governor vetoed it. So anything's possible on this topic.
Tough to read the room on that one. We'll wait and see, and obviously provide updates when we get news out of Colorado one way or the other. Delaware, another state that's looking at this issue, and I guess the language of this bill looks pretty similar to what Colorado's doing.
Yeah, and similar to what California has pursued in the past. And in this particular case with Delaware, they've made a point of focusing on autonomous trucks that are more than 26,000 pounds. So I guess if you have a lighter duty vehicle, truck, you would be able to do it, have it without somebody actually in the vehicle. But yeah, it would prohibit those affected trucks there in Delaware for testing purposes, for transporting goods, and even covers buses. So transporting passengers would also be prohibited there. But yeah, the Delaware rule, it has a sunset date. They've got a 2030 sunset date, which is kind of, I'll say it's common, but some of the legislation that we've seen in states this year, there is a sunset date. The acknowledgement that, hey, this is technology, it's here, it's evolving. Will it get better as time goes on? The expectation is that it will. So they're not wanting to just completely shut it down totally. They're just wanting to pump the brakes and wait a little bit. For the most part, you see states that they kind of feel like they're they don't want to be the guinea pig on this. They
Right.
want to wait and see how it works out before they authorize it.
And we've got a few other states that either are looking at or have looked at this issue before. I know a couple states have killed efforts to ban autonomous truck testing and driving. Anything stand out to you there with those states?
I mean, Nevada came pretty close to getting theirs through the state house. It had passed out of the Senate. It was passed out of a House committee. This is a bill that's nearly identical to what Delaware is looking to do. It included a 2035 sunset date. As they were getting up to the end of their session, there was a deadline for bills to pass out of the second chamber. And this Nevada bill did not get House floor consideration or a vote on that deadline. So came pretty close, but it ultimately stalled out. So they'll have to reconsider it in 2 more years. They're only in session every other year. They're in Nevada. So in Texas, there was a bill really didn't do much. There was at least one House bill that tried to do the same things with these other states looking to accomplish. That one didn't go anywhere. New York really is the only other one that I'm aware of that has legislation similar to what we're talking about. New York, they're in session a bit longer. Their bill recently was reintroduced, identical to a previous year's pursuit on this exact issue. So we'll have to see if anything changes there in the New York State House.
Let's flip to another issue here in another state, Oregon. They are working on a budget framework. As we speak, the two sides far apart right now. We care about this because transportation funding is a big part of the discussions there. And they've got a problem that a lot of states are dealing with, Keith, just how to pay for all the road and bridge projects. And they're trying to figure that out. Not making much progress right now, it doesn't look like.
Yeah, you've got one side who, as far as addressing the transportation budget, that wants to raise about $2 billion over the course of the next couple of years and do that by having new taxes and new fees. And then you've got the other side who says, we can do this without any new taxes, without any new fees. Let's do a better job of appropriating what's already coming in, potentially less focus in certain places like in one particular instance, put less money into transit and instead let's put money into roads. That is one of the ways that has been brought up as far as being able to handle transportation budget there in Oregon for the next couple of years.
And of concern to our listeners, some of the things being considered there in terms of paying for that $2 billion budget do include items that would matter or, I guess, relate to trucking. Weight mile tax, I know, has been talked about there in Oregon for a while, and that's part of the discussion now, it looks like, right?
Yeah, I mean, the issue, and of course there is the lawsuit that is based on the fact that in Oregon you're supposed to have an even collection of, you're not supposed to put any more burden on one like motorists as the other, like for truck drivers. What has been found is that truck drivers are disproportionately paying for transportation there in the state. Again, it's against the state's constitution. This is where the lawsuit is coming from. So how are they going to address that? I mean, there have been pursuits here over the past year or two about how they want to address that. In one of the proposals there in Oregon is to increase the gas tax by 20 cents and increase the weight mile tax by a lesser amount, but that would, in the end, result in both paying the same. That is one plan there in Oregon, probably of the most significance or consequence, I guess you could say, for truck drivers.
Death, taxes, and states trying to figure out how to pay for transportation projects. 3 things that you can count on. Keith Goebel, you're a fourth that we can count on, I suppose, as well to give us updates on all these stories and more. And people can go to landline.media for more information about these stories and many others. Keith, we appreciate your time as always. Our Cliff Clavin of Landline Media.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.
All right.
And that's our show for today. Thanks for listening, and we don't say it enough, but thanks for all you do out there in your truck to keep this country moving. We're back tomorrow with another show. Until next time, take care and drive safe.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad.
A son.
A husband.
Wife.
I'm a writer.
Photographer.
I farm. I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing.
My kids.
Chrome. And I am a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit ooida.com.